After a much more significant delay than expected, we are here today to examine and revisit the footwork of the Arte Gladiatoria di Meccani that we first covered a whole 2 years ago. In that time, my perspectives have morphed in some places, solidified in others, and been streamlined to present to students wherever I trek and right here at home in Philadelphia. Vadi's treatment of footwork is admittedly infuriating, clear in some aspects, vacuous in others, but with the tatters of his shitty prose in hand, we will today formulate the basis of our approach and the theory behind how we move in the fight. Getting into the weeds of granular specifics is not the course for today, as I don't find it particularly helpful when I myself am receiving instruction on something like footwork. So we will zone in on the basics, the tactics, and the theory presented in the book as I see them, but not before looking at some training you can do at your club to get more comfortable with this approach. The foundational footwork of, dare I say, all Italian footwork is the lunge, in particular to Vadi a sort of demi-lunge that keeps the torso upright. To make up for its loss in distance, the lunge is often ended with a forward recovery. Swat your opponent in the face with your sword, push away the earth with your back foot, and kick them in the shin for good measure. The secret in Vadi's sauce to take this simple footwork and make it his foundation is a smaller profiled stance though. A gathered position from which to spring your action onto your opponent to hit or to work mezza spada. Engaging this way draws the edge more into play than the traditional firm-footed lunge, which lets the point sit at the center stage of the fight. So, how do we practice this? With sparring games, of course. Simply doing your footwork with a cut will help make the action look pretty, but non-compliance and fun are how execution and decision-making are bolstered. This simple game can be used to help bring out the necessary skills to get the lunge or whatever other footwork you are practicing down pat. If you want to read the rules, rewind and give it a pause, then watch the few passes we do play out. Now that we have a taste of how to do the lunge, we'll move on to the pass. Here's a snip of us playing the same game with a pass as well. A strong, basic pass always starts with the sword extending forward first. Push the earth away with your back shoe until you feel like you're going to fall on your face. Your front shoe should stay glued to the ground. The pass covers about the same amount of ground as a demi-lunge, except it does so very rapidly. In practice, it's used to land a direct attack with the point specifically. The edge comes into play more when the tempo is correct. So how do we get good with it? Games, of course. Same as last time, make sure to pause and read the rules as you see me get skewered by V and land some okay shots here and there. So we've done a tiny smidge of how, but the main focus of this video are the whens and whys of the source. Footwork is a contextual thing. As everyone's bodies are different, so is the way we all move. But the best thing about Vadi is that the formula he lays out for us on footwork is quite simple to let us work towards the hit, in a way that really anybody can. Our footwork directs us to one of two goals: a constraint at mezza spada from which to hit mezzo tempo, or a direct hit. That's it. You will see I mostly use a feint to constrain with the lunge in simple steps to arrive coiled and ready for the mezzo-tempo, and end with the pass to bring myself behind the sword. This follows very closely with what the source has to say, but switching the order of operations here and there is just fine. And if the opponent injudiciously leaves a safe opening, just fucking take it. When we are fencing from the largo, we have to align and assess where our opponent's sword and legs are. High, middle, low, left or right, left leg forward or right leg forward. In doing so, then we have to probe with the point and our own posture to see if they'll let us get in a bit closer to use our demi-lunge, or if we'll have to close ballistically with the pass to catch them flat-footed, from which we can work towards mezza spada or just land a hit. Some folks will allow us to cross their swords and constrain them, a free pass to mezza spada if you will. Should they let you do this, you can strengthen your cover and enter further until they react and give you the mezza tempo. If they do nothing, shoot the thrust and remain in the crossing. Do not let yourself be divided from them. Adding angle to our offense and defense aids us in creating a new gap in the opponent's defense, which is where compass steps can come into play. Most fencers won't just let us constrain them, and even more will make it hard work to give you a good angle from the mezzo-tempo. The compass aids us by using our initial attack to hinge to the left or the right and force the opponent to reorient to a new opening, or give us a tempi when they attempt to do so. It need not be a huge action either. A slight change in angle can make all of the difference in landing the touch. To our topic today though, the use of the compass tells us much about the underpinnings of how we move. At a further distance in largo, or if we must constrain aggressively to catch our opponent at mezza spada, we pass with an attack to cover our entrance to mezza spada and work to extract the mezzo tempo. Or of course, we hit. When we must engage closer and observe that we need to have strong structure and parries and keep the sword between us to strike true, we then use the demi-lunge. We almost always return to the original line we engaged on this way. The chapter in which Vadi discusses the demi-lunge footwork is kind of a mess, but I will do my best here to explain it as I understand it. First, let's read from the book. When you throw a reverso fendente, bend the left knee and note this writing, stretch the right foot without changing it to the other side. So one understands them to be attached, the left foot with the head because they are close together, as opposed to the right, which remains across. The master speaks cryptically about his art being new and leaving the ancestors to their opinions. This is guesswork on my part, as we don't know what Vadi is actually referring to, but to me it must have something to do with his discordant parrying. Perhaps other fencers who use their passes more were not able to execute and play at tempo as Vadi did with his quote-unquote new art. But I leave that to him, and this bit of fun thought just at that, as a fun thing to think about. Moving the way Vadi tells us to allows us to do as he says, work the opponent quickly from our coiled postures. The lunge with a good attack, feinted or otherwise, into mezza spada with a plan. His other advice in conjunction with our new footwork keeps us there, fast and ready to respond to any attack our opponent gives. If we must retreat, do so in a way that allows us to keep pace, so we may stay ready to mount an attack or constrain the opponent on our own terms as opposed to theirs. If they advance quickly, use the pass. If not, stay strong with simple steps. In doing so, you will find yourself moving from guard to guard with your parries, attacks, and defenses. Choosing when to close with the pass is just as important as knowing when to return to the new footwork. Favor whichever suits you best in the moment. The rotation of the mill at the base of the feet denotes us changing as we need to bring ourselves to play at the mezza spada. And the sun reminds us that as we set to one side with our offense or defense, returning to the side we began on can play to our strengths and open new angles for us to attack. The TLDR of all of this is that the lunge and the pass are interchangeable depending on the context. From largo, the lunge is better because it leaves you in a stronger position at the end and has less of a tempo to be struck mid-action, but is naturally shorter range because of the way your body works. The small stance does make this a bit better though. When you are in mezza spada, it is really the best way to play at the sword because of the structure provided to you by the parries you can make and the fast action of tramazzone and mezzo tempo that come from said parries. The pass in Largo is useful when you know you have to cover distance more rapidly to pin your opponent in as a spada, or for landing a direct attack, and lastly entering into wrestling distance very quickly. But because of the foot coming forward, there is a greater chance of your initial action being weaker, and therefore more likely for a counterattack to slip in. Choose your options wisely and confidently, and you can avoid this. In mezza spada, stick to the lunge in simple steps, unless you must recover behind your extended sword, move to wrestling, or chase an opponent down. All of that said, thanks for watching, thanks for waiting, thanks to the fencers who helped me shoot all of this footage, and please remember to like, subscribe, and check out my book and this playlist if you want to learn more about Vadi, and get yourself some decent sparring games to get your ass good. Till next time, see you around, nerds.